It was late at night, the kind of night where the silence feels heavier than the air itself. I was deep in sleep when a soft but firm knock echoed from my door. At first, I thought I was dreaming. The sound blended with the hum of the ceiling fan, the distant barking of a stray dog, the rhythm of the night. But then came another knock, louder this time. I opened my eyes, blinking at the dim light filtering through the curtain, and my heart skipped a beat. The next morning felt unreal. Sunlight slipped through the curtains like a soft whisper, touching my face and pulling me back into reality. For a few seconds, I couldn't tell if the night before had truly happened or if it had all been some vivid dream. But then I saw the faint crease on the bedsheet, the scent of cologne still lingering in the air, and I knew it wasn't my imagination. My heart began to race again, this time with confusion instead of fear. I didn't know whether to feel ashamed, angry, or quietly relieved. When I stepped outside, everything looked the same. The birds were chirping, the guards changing shifts, the normal rhythm of the house continuing like nothing had happened. But inside me, everything was different. I caught a glimpse of him from afar. He was standing near the gate, expression unreadable, avoiding my eyes. That small avoidance said more than words could. I wanted to talk to him, to understand what had passed between us, but my feet wouldn't move. Something about his silence held me back. All through the day, memories of the night kept flashing in my mind. The way he said, "Trust me." The way he looked at me, not as someone under his watch but as someone he had silently known for a long time. I began to see things differently, how he had always been there, quietly helping, noticing when I returned home late, asking subtly if I was okay. There had always been something gentle about him, but I had never looked deep enough to notice it before. Now, every glance, every moment seemed to hold hidden meaning, yet guilt began to grow inside me, spreading like a slow ache. I already had someone in my life, someone who trusted me, someone who didn't know what had happened that night. It wasn't supposed to happen, not this way. I spent hours arguing with myself, trying to make sense of my emotions. Was it loneliness that led me to that moment? Or was it the longing to be seen, to be understood without judgment? I wanted to erase the night, but at the same time, I couldn't forget the strange warmth it had brought. Later that evening, I saw him again near the garden. The sun was setting behind him, casting long shadows across the grass. He looked tired, older somehow, as if the night had aged him. For a moment, our eyes met, and there was so much unspoken between us: guilt, regret, fear, and something softer still. He broke the silence first, his voice low but steady. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said. "I just couldn't keep pretending anymore." Those words struck deep. He wasn't talking about a mistake, he was talking about feelings, real, quiet, forbidden feelings. He confessed that he had carried them for months, never intending to act on them, but something about that night had made him lose control of his restraint. He said he couldn't watch me walk past him every day without feeling something more than duty. His voice trembled, and I could hear the weight of his own guilt. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to walk away, pretend it never happened, but another part of me understood him, that loneliness, that longing, that helplessness that comes when love finds you in the wrong place. My silence was my answer. We both knew that what had happened couldn't be undone, but neither of us could deny it either. As the sky darkened, I whispered softly, almost to myself, "Sometimes love finds us where it shouldn't." He didn't respond. He just stood there, eyes lowered, hands trembling slightly. And in that moment, we both realized that what connected us wasn't desire, it was the quiet ache of two souls who had found comfort in each other, even if just for one night. When I opened the door, our security guard was standing there. The same man who greeted us politely every morning, who never spoke more than a few words unless necessary. His uniform looked slightly untidy, his eyes shadowed under the dim corridor light. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then, in a low, controlled voice, he said he needed to show me something in the separate room near the back of the house. His tone wasn't harsh, but it carried a strange urgency that I couldn't explain. I hesitated, half awake, confused, but something in his expression made me follow him. The corridor felt longer than usual as we walked. The lights flickered, our footsteps echoed against the cold tiles. I could hear my own heartbeat in the silence. The guard didn't look back, he just kept walking with calm, steady steps. My mind ran wild with questions. Was there a problem, a thief, something broken? Or was it something else entirely? Every sound, every shadow seemed to stretch time itself. When we reached the separate room, he pushed the door open gently. The room was dim, only the moonlight slipping through the thin curtains. He stepped inside first, then turned back and gestured for me to come in. I paused, unsure, but the stillness of his eyes drew me closer. Once I entered, he quietly closed the door behind us, the sound of the latch clicking breaking the silence like a heartbeat. I stood there, waiting for him to speak, but he didn't. Instead, he just looked at me, not with command, not with fear, but with something softer, something human. There was a tremor in his breathing. I could feel it even from a few feet away. The air felt different, charged, like it carried a weight neither of us knew how to name. My throat went dry. My heart pounded harder with each second, then he took a small step forward. His voice, low and careful, broke the tension. "Trust me," he said. Just those two words. They shouldn't have meant so much, but they did. It was as if time froze around us. My mind tried to understand, to resist, but my body didn't move. He reached out slowly, his hand trembling slightly as he touched my shoulder, guiding me gently toward the bed in the corner. Everything felt unreal, the closeness, the warmth of his hand, the way the silence seemed to hum around us. I didn't speak. I couldn't. There was something between us, something that had been silent for too long. As I lay down, a strange calmness replaced the confusion. The world outside disappeared. The only thing that existed was that small room, the sound of our breaths, and the feeling that something was about to change forever. That night didn't end with noise or words. It ended with quiet, heavy, meaningful, unforgettable. I didn't understand it then, but that was the night that changed everything I knew about trust, about love, and about myself.
The days that followed felt strange, like I was walking through two separate lives at once. On the surface, everything looked normal. I woke up, went to work, came home, and tried to keep the same rhythm as before. My partner greeted me with warmth, asking about my deliveries, telling me about their day, and smiling like nothing had changed. But inside me, something had shifted. A secret had settled into my chest, heavy and uncomfortable, and it followed me everywhere. That I told myself it was just one night, that nothing serious had happened, that I could put it behind me if I just tried hard enough. But the truth was, the memory of it lingered, pulling at me like a tide. The way they had looked at me, the way they made me feel, noticed, wanted, alive, it was intoxicating in a way I couldn't explain. I didn't want to admit it, but a part of me craved that feeling again. It didn't take long before I found myself back in that same neighborhood, under the same flickering hallway light, pizza bag in hand. This time, I didn't even hesitate when they invited me inside. I told myself I was just being polite, that it was nothing more than stopping in to chat for a few minutes. But deep down, I knew I was lying. I was choosing to step back into temptation. The pattern grew quickly. A delivery here, a text message there, and soon enough, I was making excuses to visit even when it wasn't on the schedule. I crafted little lies without thinking, working late, stuck on extra runs, bike troubles, and my partner believed them every time. Their trust was a shield I hid behind. Even as I chipped away at it with every dishonest word. At first, I convinced myself that I still had control. I could draw lines, keep things casual, stop whenever I wanted. But lines blurred faster than I expected. What had started as harmless conversations turned into longer evenings, and longer evenings turned into something more. Each time, I promised myself it would be the last, but somehow, there was always a next time. Back at home, the guilt started to leak into everything. I caught myself being distant, distracted, avoiding my partner's eyes when they asked how my night had been. Simple questions made my stomach twist because I knew that every answer I gave was half a lie. Sometimes, I'd reach for their hand and then pull back, afraid they'd feel the truth in my touch. Other times, I overcompensated, being extra attentive, showering them with affection, trying to prove to myself that I still loved them. But no matter what I did, the weight of what I was hiding never went away. That my partner began to notice small changes, even if they didn't say anything outright. They'd pause a little longer when I walked in late, their eyes searching my face as though trying to read something I wasn't saying. They asked gently if I was tired, if work was stressing me, if I needed a break. I nodded, grateful for their kindness. But inside I felt smaller every day, knowing I was betraying the one person who truly cared for me. The more I tried to balance both sides of my life, the harder it became. With the three men, I felt a rush of excitement, like I was someone new, someone free from responsibility. But when I was home, the silence pressed against me, reminding me of everything I stood to lose. I could barely sleep, lying awake with my thoughts twisting into knots, my mind replaying every choice I had made. There were nights when I stared at my phone, torn between deleting their numbers or sending another message. I wanted to stop. I wanted to rewind to the moment before I ever stepped inside that apartment, but it was already too late. The secret had taken root, and I didn't know how to escape it without destroying everything around me. The cracks were beginning to show. My partner's questions became less casual, their eyes a little more guarded. The trust they had given me so freely was starting to waver, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth slipped out. Every lie, every excuse, every stolen moment was building toward an inevitable end. And deep down, I knew that when that moment came, nothing would ever be the same again. The end came more suddenly than I expected. I had been telling myself I could keep both lives separate forever, balancing on that fragile line. But deep down I knew it was only a matter of time before everything collapsed. Secrets have a way of surfacing, no matter how carefully you try to bury them. It was a late evening when the first crack split wide open. I had claimed I was running extra deliveries, but my partner grew suspicious and decided to check for themselves. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the quiet changes in me over the past weeks that had finally piled up too high to ignore. Whatever it was, they found me, standing in that apartment, surrounded by the same three men who had first pulled me inside. My partner's face appeared in the doorway like a mirror shattering into 1,000 pieces. The silence in that moment was deafening. The men shifted uncomfortably, the music still humming faintly in the background, but all I could see was the look in my partner's eyes. Shock, disbelief, and then a pain so sharp it nearly broke me where I stood. I opened my mouth to explain, to stammer out some excuse, but the words never came. There was nothing I could say that could erase what they had just witnessed. They turned and left without a word, and though I chased after them, begging them to stop, begging them to listen, they wouldn't even look at me. I followed them into the street, the night air cold and heavy around us, but every step I took only pushed them further away. By the time I returned home later, the apartment we shared felt emptier than it ever had before. Their suitcase was gone. So was their trust. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of regret. I sent messages, I left voicemails, I even showed up at their workplace once, but they refused to answer me. Friends who knew us both looked at me with disappointment, shaking their heads, whispering about betrayal and choices that couldn't be undone. The three men who had once seemed so magnetic faded quickly from my life, their presence reduced to nothing more than echoes of temptation. They had never been the point. It was never about them. It was about me, about the weakness I had allowed to grow unchecked until it destroyed everything I cared about. Nights became the hardest. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the sound of their voice, the warmth of their laughter, the trust one had thrown away so carelessly. I replayed every decision in my head, wondering where I could have turned back, where I could have chosen differently. But the truth was always the same. I had been given countless chances to walk away, and I hadn't taken them. Once, in the quiet of my empty apartment, I found myself holding one of their old sweaters. It still carried the faintest trace of their scent, and it was enough to bring me to tears. That was when the reality of what I had lost finally sank in. Love isn't something you can take for granted. Trust isn't something you can bend without breaking. I had been blind to that truth until it was too late. In the weeks that followed, I tried to move forward, though each step felt heavier than the last. Work went on as usual, deliveries, long nights, the same narrow streets, but everything felt different now. Customers smiled, handed me tips, exchanged small talk, but none of it reached me. Every laugh, every glance, every word reminded me of the home I had destroyed with my own choices. Sometimes I imagined what I would say if I had just one more chance to look my partner in the eyes. I'd tell them that I was sorry, truly sorry, not just for what I had done, but for the way I had made them doubt themselves, for the way I had betrayed their kindness. I'd tell them that they were always enough, more than enough, and that it was me who had failed, not them. But chances like that don't come easily once trust has been broken. So I carry the weight of it with me now, every day, as a reminder of the cost of temptation. Love is fragile, and when you choose betrayal, you don't just lose the person you love, you lose the version of yourself that was worthy of them, and that's a loss you can never undo.